Welcome to the Marvelous Middle Age Podcast. In this episode, I speak with my sister. Megan Knatz is a busy mom, wife, business owner, and entrepreneur, and she also happens to be my boss. We talk about our childhood, working with family members, affirming who we are in midlife, how we want to spend our time these days, and our Enneagram types. Enjoy part one of this episode with my sister, Megan Knatz. Welcome to the Marvelous Middle Age Podcast, Megan Knatz. I'm so excited that you're here. When I was thinking about doing this podcast, you were absolutely the first person that I thought of.
I was?
Yes.
Awesome.
I know.
I'm glad to be here. It'll be just like one of the many conversations we have daily.
I know. We talk every single day. And you might be wondering, folks, why we do that. It's because we're sisters. Megan is my sister.
Yes.
Younger sister by 3 years and 9 months or 8 months. 3 years and 8 months. Don't round it up to 4. She always rounds it up to 4 years. I'm not 4 years older.
It
3
feels,
years and 8 months.
It feels like I'm significantly younger.
And no, that is not it. Not at all.
We're sisters and we're friends and we work together. And so there's just a lot. We have a lot to talk about and a lot to share. So
yeah. And we're kind of in the same season. You know, we're in the same kind of age demographic and we have kiddos the same age. And yeah, we work together. We are a very close family. So some people might be like, oh my gosh, there's probably just tons of drama and fighting. And no, we don't.
We don't. No, we've even been, people have commented, wow, you guys get along so great. Like not only us, our whole family,
I know.
We really, really do. We're really blessed because I know that isn't the case for everybody. We get along very well. Growing up together, our family has always been really close. Mm-hmm. We have been friends and had common interests since we were little. We joke about our childhood and just our differences, which we can get into later too, being different Enneagram numbers. And we definitely have different personalities for sure, but we have common interests. And growing up, being the younger sister.
And you're the middle child. So we also have a brother who is 10 years younger than I am. He's 6 years younger than you. So he was kind of the little surprise at the end there. We thought we were getting a dog. I remember that because Mom and Dad were like, oh, we have a surprise for you. And it was right before Christmas, maybe like a month before Christmas. And we were so excited. We thought we were going to get a puppy. And they're like, oh, we're having another baby. And we're like, oh.
We
really?
wanted a dog. No, we got a wonderful brother.
Yes, he's wonderful.
But I also remember that when our parents were tossing around name ideas, if it was a girl, his name was going to be Ashley Catherine. And we were both really
furious
upset because we thought furious. That name was better than ours. And we were pissed. Let's be honest.
We were so upset. We kept recommending, and no offense to anyone who's this name, but Bertha and Beulah and names like that. We're like, what about that? And they were like, no. So we were furious. And so then when Dad called and said it was a boy, we were like, oh, thank God it's a boy.
Yeah. So we got Michael and didn't have to deal with being trumped on the name card.
I know. That would have been terrible.
We thought that name was better. But we got along great, all three of us growing up, and you and I were close growing up, still are today. We just had different personalities. So a couple of the jokes we had from our childhood would be, we were both really into Barbies.
Yep.
And I am just more of, you're the organized, more meticulous person. And you were older, right? So lots of things like we would play Barbies, but your Barbie was always kind of like the Barbie in charge, or you would kind of dictate how.
My Barbie was the wealthy, popular, best Barbie, and yours was like the trash Barbie that everybody hated Barbie. And nobody liked, and you were always made fun of.
I was always missing a shoe, but that was my own doing. Like my outfits, yours were organized, so I would always want to borrow your Barbie stuff, and you were hard no on that, and I'd get frustrated, and so that was always just, we'd play, but then there was just this edge of like, you were in control of how that all went down. And, but yeah, it was fun. We have so many good memories, great vacations as kids.
Holidays, Christmas was always magical, and so many fun family vacations, and we really did have a great childhood. Some of my favorite memories of you are an animal lover, still are, very passionate about that, and you would always try to sneak. We usually had some kind of pet. Our mom was allergic to cats, so Megan would go, and we had these neighbors that would have these litters of their cats would have these litters of kittens, and you would always be trying to sneak a kitten into the house, and you would stick them under the bed, and mom would start to sneeze just out of control, and that's how she knew you had a kitten under the bed, because she was sneezing. You raised bunnies at one point. Remember, you found a tiny litter of these little tiny baby bunnies, brought them all in the house, bottle fed them. They got super chubby and fat, and like you had to let them go out into the wild, where wild rabbits are not super chubby.
No, these were like just butterball.
Right.
Bunnies.
You had fed them to the point where they were not able to, they had to go out and back into the wild. We couldn't keep all the bunnies. You always wanted pets of some sort, and you had a rabbit for a while.
I did. I had a rabbit. His name was McIntyre.
Yeah, after Joe.
It was
McIntyre.
Joe.
New Kids on the Block.
Oh, always New Kids on the Block. We shared that common interest as well, and still do to this day, that we love New Kids on the Block. That hasn't changed.
Nope.
I was always really into animals, and just trying to convince my parents. I was the one who did a lot of the begging for things, or and you'd always tell me I was good at it. So
you're really good at being very persuasive. We didn't really
skills came from.
I know we didn't really eat a lot of sugary cereals and stuff, but we would always want them. So Megan would always go to the store with mom to get because if I was the kind of child where if I asked for something and was told no, I'd say, okay. I did not want to upset anybody, rock the boat, none of that. Megan, on the other hand, would make her case like an attorney about why we needed this, that, and the other. So I would have her go to the store with Megan or with my mom and beg for the sugary treats and the cereal, and you'd usually come back with something.
I got something out of it. I was just kind of relentless. I think I exhausted mom and dad to the point of just I wouldn't let it go, and that hasn't changed to this day.
But I think that's a trait though, and if any of you are listening that have a daughter, I think especially like that is not a trait that you want her to lose, because I think it served you incredibly well as a business owner. Going after what you've wanted. I think the more people tell you no, the more you try to do what you want to do. Yeah. And it's worked out, and you've done an incredible job. We'll get into all that too. But I think that was a trait that you cultivated over our childhood, and it worked well for us in terms of the treats.
Thank you. I couldn't have been an easy child, to raise. I wasn't naughty or, or disrespectful, but I was relentless in some ways. And that's can be kind of frustrating, but we just had a great time growing up together. I've always stayed close, and it's been a real gift to be able to work together, to raise children together at the same time frame. And it's been really, really, really great to be able to do those things and have that great relationship. And regardless of our differences, they actually just beautifully complement each other. Right. So I hope for others listening that you have, if not a sibling like that, which is really amazing, somebody like that in your life that really understands you, gets you, listens to you, can offer you, that support. So it's been wonderful.
Yeah. We do complement each other well. When I tell people that we work together, they're like, oh, what is that like? And it's funny because I'm the oldest, but you're definitely the boss. I mean, as far as these are your companies that I work for. So
I like to be bossy.
Yeah. And so you're getting your revenge for sure.
Some days I go back to those Barbie days and I'm I'm just kidding.
The trauma, right? No, but I enjoy, so how it all kind of came together. So, and to kind of back up a little bit, you own several businesses. You and our brother own a house flipping business, and then you own 2 wedding venues, one here where we live and then one in Galena, Illinois. And then you also co-own an events company. and you have a podcast.
I do.
The Ann and Ellis Wedding Podcast. If you are in the wedding industry or just a business owner, definitely check that out. Again, the Ann and Ellis Podcast.
Yes.
And so, but you've always had, I mean, I think you've worked in typical office settings, but you've always been an entrepreneur at heart. I mean, even as a child, you were babysitting at a very young age. You were doing that kind of thing. And so when you were opening your first venue, I was working at my church at the time. And I knew that that was not going to be a long-term employment scenario for me. And you came to me and said, hey, and by then I knew you were opening the wedding venue, but you were like, hey, would you want to work with me? You can work from home. And I had been literally praying for 9 years, because my son was 9 at the time, that I could find a position where I had a lot more flexibility to be with him. And I think you said, I can't really pay you very much, but you could work from home. And I'm like, I'm in. Where do I sign up? I'm ready to go. Let's do this. And so throughout that first summer, the venue was being built. You were booking weddings when it was a hole in the ground. There was no building to show anybody other than renderings from the architect. Right. And you were booking it like crazy. And the plan was that I was going to help you do the weddings, because you were going to do the weddings. You did all the weddings the first over a year by yourself. And I was going to help you with that, and then maybe do some of this behind the scenes stuff. And I did 2 weddings with you. And I said, I hate this. I don't want to do the actual wedding day itself. My controlling nature and my nerves, I just couldn't handle it. And you are so good at the quick on your feet problem solving. We're going to figure it out. No fear. I've got this attitude, which again is another thing that I love about you. But I'm like, please, I'll do anything. I'll do anything else. I promise. And so what we ended up figuring out was that I'm better at like the behind the scenes, paperwork, payroll, paying the bills kind of stuff and the contracts. And you've done hundreds of weddings, and we just complement each other in that way very well.
We do, because those are the things that I would not do well. They would get missed. They would be done wrong. They wouldn't be done. I mean, those are the kind of things that I just, I do not enjoy. I don't enjoy it at all. I struggle with it, to be honest. I'm not good at it. Like I can do it, but I would rather be the one out at the event working with the client. I actually love it when, I want things to go well. I'm not saying I love it when there's problems, but I love that energy that I get from like thinking on my feet and having to change things up. And some people just don't. It's anxiety producing, or it just makes you feel uncomfortable. And the good thing is we discovered that pretty quickly. And it's interesting to see where the business started and evolved to. I think at our second wedding, we were having a little bit difficult time with a client as early on. I don't know if that it was exactly the second wedding, but we hid in a closet together. I still have that photo because we were having a difficulty with a client, and we both just kind of were like, we need to just get away for a minute. And so we've come far from that. We've really come far, but no, it's a gift to me to have a team, not only that I can trust, but that has a skill set that I don't have, and that you actually enjoy that, right? You're doing what you enjoy,
right?
What you're good at, where your strengths are, and they're not where mine are. And so that's really great. And all of the things are critically important, right?
Right. If all the work that everybody's doing is important.
It absolutely is. Everything that we do here is really, really important. So I'm really glad that we can work together and that you've got that skill set that I don't have. So it is fun. And you're also the person, that when I have a business, owning your own businesses is hard in a lot of respects, and it's wonderful in a lot of respects. I wouldn't trade it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to work for anyone else. I love owning my own businesses, but that comes with a lot of pressure. It comes with a lot of stress, and you're always the person I just download everything onto. If I, and you listen to me and give really, really good advice,
Wow.
on all of that kind of stuff and not sugarcoated. You love me. I'm your sister, but you're like, here's the reality and here's the things you need to think about. And
yeah. Well, and it's funny you say that because in my life growing up, like even in high school, I was the one that my friends would come and talk to. And throughout my life, I've always kind of been that person that maybe I should have been a therapist. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I don't know what that is, just relationally or whatever. But yeah, and I have a human resources background, so I'm used to looking at things from the organizational perspective, wearing that hat, but also then looking at it from the staff or employee person's perspective to try to really get the bigger picture. And I love that. Like, I love when you come to me and be like, okay, here's something that's happening. What can we do? And we might not totally agree exactly on, how to handle it or exactly the steps or whatever, but on the whole, we agree with what needs to happen, like in terms of the end results. And how we get there might be a little different, or our approach might be different, but we can have those conversations. And you're right. I hope everyone listening has somebody like that in their life, whether it's personal relationship, professionally, you have somebody like that. And we talk about our different skill sets. And, definitely when I was younger in my 20s and 30s, I definitely did not see myself being more of that behind the scenes individual contributor support person. I wanted to be a manager. I got my MBA. I was going to manage people and lead a team. And I realized very quickly with a couple of really tough work challenges that is not my strength. I am not great at that. I'm better behind the scenes. I shine more and better there than I do in that leadership role. You, on the other hand, are very good in that role, that forward-facing, front-facing role, whether it be with our team or the clients. That's where your strength is. And so, yeah, I think it's great that we can work together, that we complement each other. And you're right. I've watched you, build these businesses, and it is a lot of pressure. But you, throughout the whole thing, like I remember when you were building your first venue, how many times you were told no, by builders or whatever. And then you ended up, finding Matt and Greiner, and what a blessing they've been. Yeah. But, you just did not give up that relentless pursuit of what you believed in. And you still do that now, again, which is, just a great trait. And, it's something I don't think you can always teach somebody, it's
maybe
born in you that you had that.
I think, and as I, in middle age, looking back, it definitely just is a personality trait that I've had, but I think it's hopefully something that people look at. I think, I'm not saying I've made it, I'm still working on things constantly and my businesses, and there's still a lot of growth to have happen, but it came from where I'm at in middle age now. If hopefully people look at someone with a business like mine and think it was instantaneous or it was an easy path. I'm like, it's been years. It's been years and years of figuring it out and pivoting and turning and being told no. And I mean, it's been years of that. So I think that is a beautiful thing about middle age is maybe you start to figure out where you fit, right? And to me, I think there's some sort of, maybe glamour around, being the manager, owning the business, being the leader. It's not that. Like, just, you need to find where you fit, where it feels right. Where in your gut, whatever you're doing in your life, even if it's owning your own business, you may not be the best person to be the front facing person. Right. That take that ego out of that and find where you fit best, what feels right within your gut, within your spirit, that you feel really at home and like you can contribute and do a good job. And I think as I've gotten closer I should say closer to middle age, I'm in middle age.
You're in it.
I'm right smack dab in it. I think I've figured that out. I still work on it. Doesn't mean it's like there's not a line in the sand where it's done and it's over. But that's a beautiful thing about being in middle age, just kind of figuring like, this is who I am. This is what I'm good at. This is where I'm meant to be and how I can best contribute professionally for sure.
Right. I totally agree. I think if anything, I've figured out at this stage of my life, being 49, that I know where I'm meant to be professionally. I know how I want to spend my time professionally and personally, who I want to spend my time with in those areas. And I would say before, I would say this has probably just been in the last several years that I really figured out, like, this is what I want to do. This is who I want to be with, and everything else is noise. And of course, there's always going to be things that pop up that you don't anticipate or that you couldn't imagine that come up. But it's like, yeah, okay. And you're right. It's not like you've arrived and everything's done. There's still tons of development and learning and growing and changing. But now I know where I want to focus all of that.
Absolutely.
I don't want all the extraneous stuff that I used to think I had to do because I had to please this person. I'm a recovering people pleaser. So I was always trying to make everyone else happy and figuring out, like, yeah, of course I want to be kind to people and compassionate and help others and do all those things and serve people well. But I know who I want to be with on the daily, who I want to spend my time with, the memories I want to make, the trips I want to take or not take. I want, or, the things I want to do work-wise, just setting some boundaries there. And it's, I just can't express that feeling. And I'm not saying it takes everybody to their 40s to get there, but I think there's something about, I don't think it's like turning 40, but you hit this point where like, this is where I want to be. And there's probably people in their 40s, 50s, 60s that still aren't there. And that's okay too. Totally. But yeah, you really get into that groove of, I'm finally, I feel like I'm in the right spot.
Yeah. That's a really, huge. Really beautiful thing, I think.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
As your hair is turning gray, you finally figured one thing out. No, I agree. I love that. And like you said, figuring out we are both really into the Enneagram, right?
Right.
And we can talk about that in a little bit too. Yeah. And figuring out, again, who you are as an individual and your personality. I think as you get to middle age, everybody has, their strengths and what speaks to them, and they know how they show up in the world. And in your younger years, sometimes you can just feel disjointed or not know how to show up properly. And it's self-awareness comes more with middle age. I feel like it the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? It's becoming more self-aware. I definitely am more self-aware. I think as an Enneagram 7, self-awareness may be something that we struggle with a little bit. I can see it showing up in my life. And I can explain it in a minute if we dig into Enneagram of where I struggle. But, I think in the middle age, you figure out, who you are. And I love that about, I think back in my 20s and, just being very chameleon-like, which is great in one respect, but it's like, there's a Taylor Swift song. I'm bringing up Taylor Swift. Cause she's everywhere, right? Everybody got to talk about Taylor Swift. I don't even know the name of the song, but I was listening doesn't matter. But it's just one of her many songs about probably one of her many dates or boyfriends, but she's like, I'll figure out, the girl that you want and I'll be that girl for a month. Right. And so I think about that in young women. Oh yeah. Women that are younger. It's like, that is such a 20s, for some people, even 30s personality thing. You're just trying to be who everybody else wants you to be. And whether that's in a romantic relationship, a work relationship. And I feel like as you get to middle age, you're like, I'm going to figure out who I am and I'm going to be me for me. And that's not like, middle fingers up to the world. It's just like, here's who I am. And I don't want to figure out who you need me to be. That is something I'm still really working on for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. You talked about the Enneagram a little bit. And for those that don't know, the Enneagram is basically a personality tool. So if you've ever taken Myers-Briggs or the Strengths Finder or any leadership tools that deal with your leadership style, for example, there used to be one called Leadership 360. I don't even know if that's around anymore, or DISC, or there's just a bunch of different ones. But anyway, the Enneagram is an assessment. There are 9 types. And basically, it's just learning which type you are, figuring that out. And then it really is a tool that you have in your toolbox that you can use to help you as you navigate the world. And it helps you kind of learn more about yourself, how you, it's the motivation of why you behave the way you do. So it's not your behavior. It's not the what that you do. It's the why. So why do I do this? Why do I say that? Why do I behave this way in these situations? And I should probably do a whole episode on the Enneagram, but it's something I'm really passionate about. And we've brought it into your workplace. And we talk about it a lot because when I learned about the Enneagram on a podcast, and I thought, this sounds really interesting. So there's free tests you can take. Tests are about 60 to 70% accurate though. So I ended up buying a book called The Road Back to You, which is like the best. It just very simply and in a very straightforward way explains all 9 types. And that's really the best way to figure out your type, is to read about all the types. It's a super easy read, and it'll help you. You'll rule out right away several types that are not you, and you might land between 2 or 3. You have to kind of sort that through. But anyway, so there's 9 types, and it's just a tool to help you figure out how you navigate through the world. It's like your lens, right? How do I view the world through this lens? And so I'm a 2, and they're all the different 9 types depending on who you follow or listen to about the Enneagram. They are called different things, but it's typically called the helper. Mm-hmm. And the 2s are people who are very much in tune with other people, their needs. We tend to push our own needs to the side and focus on everybody else, which can get you into trouble. And again, I can go into this more maybe on another episode. And so I read The Road Back to You, and I knew I was a 2. None of the other types. I mean, there's some types that I could have maybe been, but I've always tested as a 2. Everything I read about the 2, I'm a 2. And as I was reading the book, I read about the 7, and I started to laugh out loud because this is my sister. I said, she is the most 7 who ever 7'd. And I didn't tell you that. I think I told you to take a test or something. And then you're like, I'm a 7. I'm like, yep, I knew that. And 7s are typically called the enthusiasts. They're people who have just this sense of spontaneity, adventure. They're always very up for anything. I mean, these are broad characteristics. So not every 7 fits exactly into these different things, but you're someone who is, they'll say like the life of the party, but someone who's just very up for adventure and excitement and wants everybody else to be excited about it. Very forward future thinking. So always kind of on to the next thing. Once something gets kind of rote or mundane, they're like, nah, don't have time for that. I want to do this over here. And so kind of to what you were saying is that you are always very excited about things and you do anything you can to kind of avoid pain, emotional pain, dealing in negativity. And so you kind of want everybody else, to come along for the ride. And so, as you were saying, sometimes you're recognizing in yourself, like, oh, maybe not everybody wants to go do this thing that I think would be awesome and amazing. And why would everybody not want to do that thing? Like, I will sometimes, I know you'll message me and you're like, I'm going to go sled downwards naked on a slide down a hill in the snow. And I'm making this up, but
and you should come with me.
And you need to come in too and do it too. And I'm no, I'm not doing that. I don't.
That's 100%.
That's a really silly example, but you'll think of something. And sometimes, it's like, oh yeah, that would be fun to do. And I've actually been trying to be more, not very well, but trying to be a little more spontaneous because I tend to not be that. But, and so, but I think where it served you really well in business is you are never afraid to try. Like you have no fear of trying something. If it doesn't work, set it aside, try something else. That 7-ness about you've never had that fear of failure, I guess. I mean, and everybody kind of does fear failure a little, but you really are like, you know what? I'm going to try this. I'm going to do this.
I don't, in business, in just life, I don't see what could go wrong with most things. She's laughing. You can't see her, but as I'm saying that, I'm like, what could be bad? What could go wrong with this? And then people in my life, hence my sister, are like, well, people could die.
We tell you all the 10 things. And that is actually, it's funny because I think that is more of a need for control that I have because I'm not going to get into wings today because it's just a whole nother rabbit hole, but, 2-wing one. So ones are we tend to be a little, can be controlling. And I definitely have a 1 wing, with my 2. And so I will always tell you why it's not going to work out. And this happens a lot, where you'll say, hey, I have this idea for the venue or this or that or whatever. And I'll say, well, okay, here's the 10 reasons why you shouldn't do it. And then you'll come right back and you'll go, okay, and you'll tell me 10 reasons how you're going to fix or overcome those reasons or those reasons. You will figure that out, kind of thing. And you figure it out. So I feel like you are open and you listen to the feedback that I have, which is always usually very why you shouldn't or whatever. And I'm not trying to be negative, but I'm also very protective and I don't want to see anyone that I love and care about be hurt or put themselves in a position where, something could happen. So, but then, you kind of figure it out. Yeah. And I think, and that's again, just a great trait to have personally and professionally.
Or I will go, oh, yeah, you're right. Okay. I didn't think about that. So that may not work. But what I will then do is usually pivot, like, well, let's turn right then. And, so I do need that. It's a reality check. I probably live a little bit in, not, like I said, I look at pretty much any situation and go, this is absolutely possible.
Right.
There's got to be a way to figure it out. Let's do it. So that's a very 7 thing. The other thing, if I could describe myself as a 7, because I always say life of the party, whatever. I'm not like, I don't want to go to every party. That's not me.
So you don't have like the FOMO, because some 7s are really have major FOMO. They don't like to miss out.
What I find I love, like, and this is where I can have to, self-awareness has to kick in. Like if we have a fun, like I love planning like a fun day, right? And I don't want it to end. So where most people are like, okay, let's go. For example, I was just in Montana visiting my daughter and I'm like, I want to start off with the breakfast at the cute coffee shop. And then we're driving to Yellowstone and we're going to see the animals. And then we should, have lunch and then take the lift up the mountain and follow with dinner. Like I don't want fun to stop.
Right.
So I don't necessarily want to be in a big crowd or like a big party, but I think that's where 7s, they don't want the fun to end. They like just love being happy and they love doing things. And so where most people are like, I'm good. Like I don't need
I'll do the first 5 things, but the other 10 things you have, I'm
like,
not
they're exhausted, right? I think we can exhaust people, mentally and physically. And like, they're just, it's maybe too much. And so where I've like my relationship with my husband, and if you're a 7, you may relate to this, or maybe you don't know that you're a 7, but you're like, that's me. He might be like, is it ever enough? And I'm like, it's not coming from a negative place. It's like, what, enough fun, enough joy? No, it never is. Like, why would I want that to end? Right. So I get very excited about just doing little things, right? Like, let's go to, the farmer's market. Let's do this and let's do that. Like, cause like they just, the other thing too is sometimes 7s, or if you find yourself feeling this way, you get excited and you're wondering like, why would you not want to do that? Like I still really, really struggle with not understanding why people are not excited about the same things that I'm excited about. And I try hard to sell it,
Yeah, you do.
I'm like, let's go to the da-da-da and do this. It'll be really fun. And everybody's looking at me like, you're crazy.
No.
So
yeah,
I'm still working on that. But like you said, the good part of that is that I can motivate people. I get people excited. I can get people on board. I can rally people to do things. And so that is the good part of that. But where we function really well, again, is that, I can come up with ideas and get momentum and get excited. And then you can analyze it from like a safety and a reality standard and look at it, but you do it in a way that doesn't, 7s don't like their dreams to be crushed, right? 7s need people that stay positive around them and you still do that. And so through, again, everything we do as a family and in life and in business, we complement each other really well.
If you're enjoying the podcast, please follow the show to make sure the latest episode is on your podcast feed each week. I would greatly appreciate a rating and a 5-star review on the podcast platform you're listening on. It helps others to find the show. If there are topics you'd like to have discussed on the show, please email me at themarvelousmiddleagepodcast@gmail.com. The Marvelous Middle Age Podcast is produced by Riley Mullane and is part of the Ananellis Studios Network.